Hello friends, Henry Flowers here, Powerful Living Outreach Ministries. I got a special guest for you today that I'm going to be interviewing. It's going to be powerful. This is an opportunity for us as believers to get to know more about this young man and about his life in this country and another country, and how all that wraps up into powerful living for him. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Lucas. What's up, my brother?
Hello, man. Thank you for having me here.
Man, thank you for giving me your time.
Yeah, awesome.
Tell me where you're from originally.
I'm from Brazil. I'm from São Paulo. I recently moved to US. I think it will be 4 months now. 4 months.
That you've been in the US?
Yes.
4 months.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome. So what brought you here? So before I do that, tell me, because so I'm from Detroit.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not very well educated as far as geography.
Yeah.
Give me an example for those who, like myself, may not be good at geography. Tell me about Brazil, where it is, climate, that kind of thing.
Brazil is located in South America, so it's close to Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, those countries. So that's where we at, and we are the only Latino country that doesn't speak Spanish. We speak Portuguese.
So it's a Latino country.
Yes, I would.
And it doesn't speak Spanish.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of Americans, they don't consider Brazilians Latinos because we don't speak Spanish. But but we are in South America, we are in Latin America.
So you just taught me another something new.
Yeah.
So a Brazilian is considered a Latino.
That's a very huge topic. People, I would say yes, but a lot of people would say no.
Some say no.
Yeah.
What brought you here to America? 4 months you've been here. What brought you here?
So, my family lives in U.S. The side of my wife, she lives here, and we wanted to spend time with family before we go overseas in missions. But it was a long journey. It was a journey that it was very uncertain. We never thought that we would be able to come to U.S. because Brazil and U.S. we don't have a very good relationship regarding immigrants. We need visa, and usually it's very hard to get a visa. And it took 4 years to come to U.S. And those 4 years for my family and I, it was very uncertain. But once we got the green card and we were accepted in the process, yes, that's when U.S. is in the game. And
how hard was it for you to get your visa? Give me some details.
Very, very hard. For you to have an idea, countries like Brazil, we go through lotteries.
A lottery?
Yes, U.S., they have a lottery program in a lot of countries, so a lot of people will try to apply for a green card, and annually, I don't know how many times per year, they will throw names, and they can come to U.S. and get a green card. But that was not my case. My case, I got a green card because I was married to American. But that only is not an easy process because we don't have enough income. We don't have like a profile that makes me as a Brazilian welcome to US. Yes.
So as a Brazilian, you say you got married to an American.
Yes.
Wouldn't that automatically give you a foot up, a foot in, something? Because you're married to an American.
It is, but for example, in Brazil, we used to have an income of $1,200 per month, and that's very good living in Brazil.
Really?
Yes. So when we
$1,200 a month.
Yeah, $1,200
in Brazil is good living.
Good living. It's middle class.
$1,200 a month is middle class in Brazil.
$1,200, yes, $100. So imagine that. That was a good living for us. But to come here in US, we cannot live with that money, right? And
You
whenever
probably need more than that per week
yeah, you see,
to live here in the U.S.
so in order for me to be able to be in US, I needed a sponsor. I needed someone that could give us to say to the government, okay, they don't have money, but we will sponsor any needs that they have. Without that sponsor, I cannot have a green card. I cannot have a very good, I will not be able to say to the US government that I have a good profile to immigrate to US because I don't have enough income, right? So yes, so this is the first challenge. But fortunately, my father-in-law, he was more than happy to sponsor our family. So in order to get a green card and be accepted as an immigrant, you need to be able to fit in a certain profile that the government is asking you. And that took around 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go here,
Yeah,
and I want you to be completely honest
perfect.
because there's a lot of angst.
Yes.
There's a lot of anger, anxiety in this country about immigration. People who come here illegally, jumping the line because people are, and then there's the whole Christ concept where it says, hey, listen, God says take care of the immigrants. We were all immigrants at one time. The scripture says look
Yeah.
out for the immigrants and these kind of conflicts that come into play. So someone like yourself who it took you 4 years to get your visa to be able to come here to this country, what thoughts do you have about the conversations concerning illegal immigration in this country? How does it make you feel to know that some people just say, forget the rules, we just come in and we're not going to do it the right way, so to speak?
Okay, I would say from the experience that I had with refugees, especially Afghan refugees in Brazil. Those are the people that I had more contact with, and they will come to US illegally. So Brazil was the first, actually was the only country that was able to host Afghan people. We just opened our arms for them. But Brazil is not a country that they can establish and be settled easily. It's not an easy country. So they prefer to immigrate to US, and that process is usually illegal.
Okay.
They hire coyotes from Mexico.
Coyotes?
Coyotes from Mexico, and the coyotes will take them border to border until they reach US.
Explain that term, coyotes.
So coyotes is like those, maybe they are related with the cartels.
Okay.
And they're the ones that make a way for to go to the country that they are aiming for. They have their own ways to get to US, tunnels, whatever, going to forests, whatever. They took their routes, walk maybe months to go to US. But it can only done if you have a guide. That guide, we call them coyotes.
Why didn't you take that route?
Why? So US, differently from the Afghan people, I don't see US as the country that is the dream country. A lot of people, they will come to US because they will think that they will have a better life here and they will have better life quality, that they are going to strive, they're going to be able to help their families. This is how US is seen, even from people from Brazil. When a lot of people see America, they will see a land of opportunities. Why? Because the currency is bigger. If you work as a barista here, for example, I'll open up. I earn around maybe $3,000 per month. $3,000 per month in Brazil is a very high salary. It's a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount of money. And working as a barista and another job, I can send money to my family, for example, right? So America is a place that you can have jobs that are not so high, but you can get very good pay compared to the countries that we were. But why I decided to come here legally? First, I feel that this is the way that I was married to an American woman, so I was wanting to use that as a perk to coming to US. Second, I feel that if I cannot go to US legally, okay, personally, I feel that God is not wanting me to go there. So I feel that if I'm able to go, I will try to go in all legal terms. But it's more a personal opinion because it talks about my own character, it's about how I do the decision makings. And if I had to come here illegally, I can have a bad something. If I take, for example, the route, I can risk my life. People die in those places. To go to cross the Panama forest, it's dangerous.
Okay.
Those routes is also drug routes where the international drug traffic happens. So a lot of bad things can happen, you know. So I prefer doing the right thing just because I feel that I already have a perk. But I only do that because my wife was an American citizenship and I was able to get a green card, and why not just do everything right. And also my family, my wife's family, they were in the military. They have a very good reputation concerning, I don't know, legal stuff, you know. So yeah, to come here illegally, it will be very hard for the family to accept me as well.
Gotcha.
I think that would be
That's really good. She wanted to have a good testimony,
Yes.
is what you're telling me.
Yeah, because first, because I don't think that America is the dream place. My life doesn't get better if I move to another country. I don't believe in that. I don't think that America will be that place, you know.
But this is the greatest country on earth. Everybody wants to come here. That's what they say.
Is what they say. Well, you pay a price for that, right? You pay a price if you want to live by that word. If you want to come here illegally, you have to pay the price of understanding that you're pursuing that dream no matter what, you know? You have to pay the price. I could live very well in my country, in Brazil. I was very happy. If I could, the only place that I would dream about is the place that God put in my heart, which is somewhere in Middle East.
In the Middle East.
Yeah.
So, why did you come to the U.S.?
First, because I wanted to be accountable to my supporters, my church supporters. So I feel that they didn't know me. They don't know me. They only knew me by Zoom. And I felt that it would, if I had a chance to come here and do life with them and be accountable and appreciate all the support that they gave me while I was in Brazil, I would come. So I felt that coming here to US was definitely a chance that I could be accountable to my American friends and supporters and church. And also the family, my wife's family, that really wanted to know me, and they didn't have a chance because they didn't travel to Brazil.
So tell me about what your supporters are supporting. Tell me, how are they supporting you? What do you do?
So when we were in Brazil, we were as missionaries. So
You and your wife were missionaries in Brazil?
Yes, for 4 years. 4 years. And
Was
they
there
were
a particular place you were missionaries at?
São Paulo, downtown São Paulo, in a place called Crackland. It's one of the biggest drug scenes in the world. The biggest is actually in the
place,
US.
the place is called Crackland.
Yeah, it's a place where a lot of people they buy crack.
Crack as in the drug.
Yeah, as in the
That's the
drug.
name of the place.
Yes.
Not officially, but
Yes. But if you put in the internet Crackland, they will show Brazil. They will show that place.
really.
And that's where me and my wife we used to work as missionaries, working a lot with drug addicts and stuff like that. And the American church, they were supporting us financially, and so they were very good partners. Yeah, with prayers also, we felt very loved by them. Yeah.
Give me some details about Crackland.
So Crackland is a place that is basically a drug scene. You will see a lot of shacks, maybe 1,000 people you smoking crack in the streets. This is basically how Crackland looks like. And most of them they are in vulnerable situation. They are homeless. Some of them they are pretty rich, but they are pretty addicted to crack. And our work was to give them a place that they could enjoy a service, a small quiet time. We would preach for 15 minutes, and we will give them snacks, and then we will build life with them. And once that, and one of the guy, if our guy wanted to join a rehab house, we would have a rehab house for him to recover and all that. But this is something that is pretty rare to happen. Most of the people they didn't want to go to rehab and stuff like that.
So most of the people in Crackland are happy to be there.
They're happy to be
They're happy
there.
to be strung out on drugs.
Yeah.
And you're going there to share the gospel.
Yeah. Sharing the gospel there is a little bit different because Brazil is a Christian country, right? So most of the crack users, they were Christians. Some of them were pastors, worship leaders, but they just went through a huge frustration in life. Maybe a divorce, maybe someone dear from them died, sometimes they were betrayed, they lost their jobs, and crack was their medication for their pain, you know? And addiction is like that, at least for most people in Crackland. When we say no to drugs, sometimes in their perspective, they're saying, you're taking the only thing that gives me joy, you know?
Really?
Yeah, because if you're a Christian and you live a gospel that people say that you will have a good father, you're going to have a very good fellowship, but inside the churches you don't live that reality in full, there's a huge frustration in there, right? There's a huge frustration in that. And sometimes drug can feel that because it's pragmatic. It's something that is tangible. The joy is tangible, right? But joy in fellowship in church sometimes can be hard because a lot of time can be hypocritical, right? So a guy in Crackland once, we were preaching the gospel saying that God was a good father, right? But he said, okay, you say that, but you're not going to stay here tomorrow or a day after tomorrow. What kind of father is that? What kind of person is you that preach about a God that is omnipresent, but when your job is done, you go back to your family, you go back to, and I will be staying here. So you see, there is a gap between speech and an idea of faith. People, they don't understand, and I think that they're right in some ways, because if we are not able to pay the price to be with them daily, to disciple them, even in their failures, even in their falls, they will never know the value of faithfulness, perseverance, because they're used to being abandoned all the time.
So you're talking about, you said ministering to them daily.
Yes.
So are you going to Crackland for a certain time and then come home?
So
And then go
in
back?
my case, I would be in Crackland 3 times a day and also in a rehab house.
3 times a day,
Yeah, 3 times per week, and I will also be at the rehab house.
3 times per week.
Yes.
And how long during these days are you among these people?
It will vary. It varies for a lot of for a lot of reasons. First, sometimes there are riots. Sometimes the atmosphere and the Crackland is dangerous. Sometimes I cannot find a guy. Sometimes
A guide?
the guy that I wanted to talk.
Oh, you can't find the guy that you're looking
I can
for.
find the guy that I'm looking for.
Okay.
So we have to take account a lot of those things if we are going to do ministries in Crackland. We need to be very intentional, very purposeful, and very resilient because we need to have a goal. Because if you don't have a goal, it's very easy to be overwhelmed. It's such a very overwhelming scene to live day after day. Yeah,
What's the worst thing you've seen?
in Crackland. So in Crackland, people that they used to rob people inside Crackland, they would get killed because police they don't want to have any attention. They want the drug dealers. They don't want the police attention come to Crackland trying to investigate. So if you commit a crime and the civilians report it to the police will come and they will be very aggressive. There will be a lot of tension. So in order to not have that, there is a law in Crackland that you cannot rob inside the Crackland area. So one day I saw someone that committed a robbery in Crackland and their drug dealers caught him and they killed him right in Crackland.
So you're saying when you say there's a law, you're talking about an unwritten law, street law,
It's
street
street law,
justice.
it's street justice. Yes, it's street justice.
So the drug dealers took care of it themselves.
Yeah. This is very common to happen in Crackland.
So just let me take a pause for a second here because I'm really, I guess in speaking to my Powerful Living partners here, what I'm just becoming present to is this, this call that we have to share the gospel, and many times we as believers we're afraid. We don't want to be rejected. We may not know exactly what to say to somebody to share the faith with them. But here's Lucas, and he's going into Crackland in Brazil, and likely, at least at the threat of your own personal safety, you're there to share the gospel. And this is just maybe gives me a perspective. Just comparing it to how we have it here in the United States and just how much of a reluctance we have to share the gospel with people. And then here's Lucas. He's in Brazil, in Crackland, and sharing the gospel. But you're saying that you're bringing food and ministering to people.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Food is a means for something greater, right? When Jesus was breaking bread with the disciples and he would present the Lord's Supper, that reality of bread and wine, it was pointing to something bigger, right? So food is just an excuse to build relationship. So that's how our ministry used to work. Those that wanted to spend time hanging with us, let's just chill, let's just talk, let's just build life together in a very simple way, without building expectations saying that we are going to give food every time that you want. It's not about that. Today is the food that we have. If you want to just sit on the table and just talk about life, about building a relationship, a friendship, and if you want, we can live this life intentionally. you can build something. Relationships, I feel that they are the ones that will lead you to the next steps. Giving food, nah, but relationship really gets you to a deeper layer of relationship. Yeah.
Using food and breaking bread together to build relationships.
Yes.
What a concept. What a concept.
Yeah, you need to be like that, right? You need to be like that.
What are some of the challenges?
I feel that the biggest challenge is to give them the truth that they are not what they think they are. They are imprisoned by this idea that, okay, I think I will try to explain this way. So Freud, he had a concept about secondary gain. And what is that? Whenever a kid wants something, he will cry. So he preferred to see himself as a crying baby because every time that he cries, he can get some food or whatever he wants. And that applies to, for example, a homeless person. Sometimes it's easy to be a homeless person because you can get gains with that. You can get food, you can get attention, you can get money. But it's very hard to be your real self because your real self, you don't earn nothing being yourself. So you prefer to be someone else to get the benefit of that identity without being your true self, right? And the biggest challenge is to say that God see your real self, and that matters more than your idea of trying to become someone that you're not, only because you're going to profit with that. And that was hard because a lot of people, they would say, Lucas, I'm a drunk, I'm a drug addict, and that's my identity. And most of the time we have to say, no, this is not your identity. You know why? Because every time that you use drug, you come here, because here you see that you can be yourself. You come here because you know that deep down, you know that you're loved. Sometimes our vices is so ingrained in our body that we think that the vices define us. But it's not the reality that God sees us, right?
That is an amazing distinction there. I'm just reminded of I love The Lion King, the movie Lion King, and he says he has this vision. Simba has this vision with his father, and his father speaks to him in the vision and says, "You are more than what you have become."
Yeah.
And I love that. That's what you're describing there. And that, are you saying that people go to crack land just to get high and then they go back and return to their normal life?
Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they do. Sometimes there are some people that can do that, but most of the people, they stay in crack land.
They stay there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are people that can go back to their families, yes.
So you've been in the United States for 4 months, you said?
Yeah.
Do you plan to go back?
To Brazil?
Yes.
Maybe only to visit, but I'm not sure if I would go back to live in Brazil again. Only if I felt that God had a purpose on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, this is really good because sometimes, there are seasons for the things that God has called you to.
Yeah.
And it's really important for us to be connected to God so that we know when the season is up.
Yeah, my season now, I feel that is all about being with my family, my wife's family, and also to live life with my church. This is the season that I feel that is right now, but I feel that it will take maybe 1 year and a half, maybe 2 years, then we are moving again.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
4 years.
When did you and your wife know that you were called to the mission field? When did you know for sure?
My wife she went to missions after high school. She joined YWAM after, so she knew.
She went right after high school. She went
After
to the mission
that
field.
was so she knew. About myself, I think after I graduated from university, there was a conflict that I had to deal with and overcome, which was trying to decide my life if I wanted success or if I wanted to pursue meaning, right? And sometimes those things can overlap. We think that success is meaningful, but not necessarily. But I had opportunity because my friend asked me if I wanted to go to South Africa. And that time I was applying for my master's degree, and I was going to get a scholarship and all, but I decided to pursue missions. But it was very incredible because God provided everything for me to be able to go to South Africa, and all my finances paid. And it happened in a very supernatural way that I felt that that was my calling. So in Brazil, that trip was costing around $3,000. For us in Brazil, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
In Brazil, $3,000.
It's a lot of
And how
money.
long was this trip supposed to be for?
I was going to be in a mission trip because I was going to be working with orphan kids.
Okay.
But one day my friend had a dream about an American guy, we don't know, just giving money for us. And he shared that with me and said, oh my goodness, I wish that could be true. Next week, an American guy from New York, I don't know his name, I don't know who he is. He knew about our story, and he gave us $3,000. And he wrote an email saying, I was an orphan, and I know the ministries that you're going to. Here, $3,000, all the flight tickets, everything paid in full. And
you don't know how the guy found out about you?
Yeah, I don't know. But I knew that was a huge confirmation in my life that God was inviting me to be part of His great story.
That's amazing. You people have heard me say this many times. This is another example of it. God's thing, done God's way, will never lack God's supply.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of it. I've seen it in my life many times where God just made it happen.
Yeah. True. I think that that was very important for me because we didn't have the money, we didn't have nothing. If God wants you to be in a place, He would make you go to that place in supernatural ways.
So you told us about your wife. Where did you go to college?
I went to a college in Brazil called Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie. Presbyterian University called Mackenzie.
And you got a master's degree?
Yeah, I got a master's degree after, yes.
So you told us about your wife's calling. How did you receive the calling for missions?
I remember that I was in a geography class, and I remember the teacher talking about India. And India has basically almost 2 billion people right now, and most of them never heard about the gospel. Never heard. Actually,
that's hard to believe.
Yeah.
That in today's society, there's still people who've never heard the gospel.
Yeah, and you know the crazy thing that I think this is the number. I can be mistaken, but only 40,000 missionaries are working with unreached people groups. 40,000 of our missionaries. The population of missionaries that are working with unreached people groups is only 40,000.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Our most missionary force is working in countries that is already Christian.
So most of the missionaries are going to places where people are already believers.
Yeah. And not going to places that are unreached. So when I saw the reality, I thought, no, 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 no. I need that's I like what I like about Nehemiah is that God didn't spoke to him in his heart. Go build the walls. No, he went there. He said, "Oh, the walls of Jerusalem are broken," and he starts to weep. I relate to that. Sometimes we don't need to have like a special revelation. Just see the reality itself already shows you what must be done, right?
That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. So, why do you think it is that in places like you said, Brazil, why do you think it is that missionaries don't go there? Is it hostile to Christianity?
Brazil? No, I think a lot of missionaries will go to Brazil.
Or India? You said
India.
India. You said there's like billions of people who've never heard the gospel.
Because to become a missionary in those countries, you have to give your life. When I say that you have to learn a language, you need to endure culture shock, you need to learn a new language, you need to dress up, you need to... If you don't know their language, you're not going to be able to preach the gospel. So people that really want to go and really want to give their lives to learn a new language, spent a lot of years learning that, be able to endure culture shock, unreached people groups. I'm not joking. It's at least 10 years. 10 years. It's 10 years or maybe more.
Wow.
More. And you're not going to see a lot of people being saved. You probably will see 2 or 3, not more than that. Maybe you're going to be or maybe you're not going to see nothing.
So these are like real obstacles that people face in these places. The culture, the apparel. I guess you can't just dress any old kind of way if you're going to be able to reach out to people. The language. How many languages do you speak?
I will speak only Portuguese and English.
So if you somehow felt the calling to be a missionary in India, you'd be starting from zero.
I need to start from zero, scratch, like a baby. Yeah.
Wow. So what's next for you? You said you're going to spend time here.
I'm going to spend time here, and if God allows, in 3 years, I want to go start my life in Middle East.
In the Middle East?
Yeah.
Any place specific?
Iraq.
Why Iraq?
So the country that is in my heart, it's Iran. But my wife, she's American, and Iran and US, they hate each other, right?
Oh, are Americans not welcome in Iran?
No, we are basically, you guys are almost in commercial and political war against Iran. So my wife cannot go to Iran. But Iraq is border country with Iran. And might be a lot of Iranian refugees in Iraq.
I see.
So that's a good place to start. A starting place.
I love that. So you'd be hoping to reach out to the people of Iran, and really by proxy, because the ones running from the dangers of Iran would go to Iraq, and you'd be there waiting.
Yeah.
I love that. It's very clever.
Yeah.
When do you see that happening for you?
Maybe in 3 years from now. Maybe.
Tell me about a time where someone did receive Christ.
Oh, you mean in my own experience? I'll have to go back to Crackland again. So, I remember that I was in Crackland. I was ministering to a lot of people. And I remember saying to God, if you are to change this place, I need to talk with the main drug dealers of this place. I need to talk with the authorities of this place. Because if I talk with only drug addicts, sometimes it's hard, because if a person doesn't have an influence, strategically speaking, they cannot do a lot. But if I talk with a huge drug dealer, and if this guy becomes a Christian, he can make a major impact. So that's when I started to pray. I prayed for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And that was a day that this huge guy came to the rehab, and he was addicted to coke. But he heard about my wife's testimony and he got moved. And after a year of discipleship, he decided to follow Jesus.
1 year.
Yes, after 1 year
of discipleship.
But it was very, it's like this, talking, just going to have meals together. That guy, he's one of the sons of the founders of the Brazilian cartel. He's the son of one of the founders of the Brazilian cartel.
And he said yes to Jesus.
Yeah, he says yes to Jesus. I cannot give his name because for safety reasons and all, but he used to be a bounty hunter. He killed a lot of people that used to own money for the cartel.
So he has body counts. This brother got body counts. This is the brother that they ministering to, sharing the gospel with him, and he got body counts. Is what you're saying.
Yes, and he accepted Jesus, and he became one of the most nice, sweet person that I ever encountered. And that story shocked me because I remember that when he first told his own story, I didn't understand. But the day that he was fully recovered and he said, "Hey Lucas, I'm going back to my family," and he shared again his story, I was amazed.
So you saw real change in this guy's life.
Yeah, but I would say that I didn't see many changes, but I didn't, counting about people, maybe I saw maybe 10 or 13 to 10 people really following Jesus from Crackland. But I used to work in Crackland for 10 years.
10 years you were there.
Yeah, but 13 and 10 people, yeah.
Yeah. Let me be real clear about this part, because you're bringing up something that's very important.
Yeah.
As believers in Jesus Christ, we have been saved to save.
Yeah.
We've been set free to set free.
Yeah.
Right? We've been healed to heal.
Yeah.
Many people who say that they are believers in Jesus Christ have shared the gospel with no one.
Yeah.
And especially, they have nobody who they personally discipled and is in the body of Christ because of their work in their lives. Most Christians go through their lives without discipling anyone.
Yeah.
So for you to say that you have, 5 or 10, I just want you to know, just from, just 30 years of ministry experience right here, I'm just telling you, that's huge.
Yeah, which is sad, right? That's sad, man. That's sad.
It can be sad if if you're somebody who desires to win souls, to be a part of the harvest. But what you're speaking to, though, is that, there are a lot of people who are Christians in just name only.
Oh, no, yeah.
Right? Christ is just Savior. Yeah. They want to go to heaven.
Yeah.
But the Lordship of Christ has not taken over their lives to the point where they're willing to risk their life to go and share the gospel. Bro, most people not doing that. Most people ain't doing that.
Yeah. I feel that the main problem from my experience, is people that are willing to disciple, to build real discipleship, to do that intentionally. And I mean, people, they don't need to go to Crackland, but if they can be a very good friend at work and just, use their friendship to glorify Christ, I would say, do that, man. Just use that, because I cannot do what you're doing. Maybe I cannot be an engineer, and only you can be in the place that you are right now, right? And connecting with the people that your life happens to enable you to connect. Just use that to glorify Jesus now, right? You don't need to be crazy. You just need to be intentional.
And it could take 10 years of
10 years,
intentionality.
yes, but it will be good, because, of course, you will be still preaching the gospel and you will still impact lives. I remember that one of my greatest challenges was there also, because I was doing missions, but I had a lot of non-Christian friends. And I was thinking one day, oh my goodness, God, my friends will all go to hell. But one day, I started to be very intentional on inviting people over or going to their house. And if I could, if it made sense to me, I would just pray with them. Hey man, I would just pray for you. And one of the biggest evangelistic moments of my life was when we presented our daughter to our church, when we announced that we were pregnant. That's when we celebrate intentionally speaking about Jesus. And that's when my friends first realized that Christianity can be beautiful. And that when my best friend, through the story of our lives, our journey, he decided to follow Jesus as well. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. See, this is a beautiful thing when we talk about evangelism being intentional and living your life for Christ. It's not only grabbing somebody, a stranger that you see on the side of the street, and say, hey, if you died today, where would you spend your eternity? Don't you know you need to see Jesus? Hell is coming. Jesus is on the way. Listen, that is a way. I know people who do that. I've done that. I've been on the street corner preaching on the streets. I've been doing the outreach and the hellfire and brimstone preaching. But what I'm telling you, where I have seen people come to Christ more, I'll just set the church experience aside, because people invite people to church, they hear the message, they come to Christ, and you pray with them, and I'll set that aside. But personal evangelism is what we're speaking about here with Lucas. Man, the personal evangelism that I have experienced is when I grabbed a hold of people. Yeah. And there was a long engagement over the course of, maybe it was months, maybe it was weeks, maybe it was years. Yes. Breaking bread, fellowshipping together, being willing to be a part of their lives. Showing the beauty of being a Christian, answering someone's why. Because someone's going to say, why do I need Jesus? Why do I need to be religious? Why do I need to even believe in God? And your life is what you're saying, Lucas, is that you exemplified it, and someone came to Christ as a result. That's powerful living, brother.
I believe in that. And this is universal. If you do that anywhere in the world, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
If you're doing that anywhere in the world, you're doing a good job. I believe that.
That's great. So you've definitely been a part of Harvest Field in Brazil. Yeah. You're going to be here in the United States for a couple of years. Your wife, and you have a daughter.
Yes.
How old is your daughter?
She's 2 years.
2-year-old daughter and your wife. And you're going to be here in the United States for a few more years, and you see Iraq next on your radar. Yeah. So for my listeners, all of the Powerful Living partners that may hear your testimony, I want you to look into your camera and talk to them and let them know how they could possibly reach out to you and possibly help you on your missions. Okay. So if you want to reach me out, you can talk with Henry, and Henry can introduce us, and I would love to grab a coffee or just talk. I think if you want to know me, I would love to meet you as well. I believe in relationship, as you said right now, personal relationship. So I would love that.
I'm at. If you want to see me in person, I'm in Mason, close to Mason, Ohio. So.
Do you have an email address?
Oh yes, YORIYAZ number 10 at gmail.com. That's my email address.
And I will make sure to put that in the description box.
Yeah.
Because some of you may hear Lucas' story and you may want to give and support his next mission trip, because I'm sure he will need that, going back not only with his wife next time, but
Yeah,
his 2-year-old daughter as well.
yeah,
So those are going to be things, those are going to be opportunities where we get to sow into his life. And just understand, y'all, when I sow into his life, I am taking part of his ministry. That's the beautiful thing about the kingdom of God, is that it's not just about somebody who's willing to go, but the blessing is also in the people who are willing to finance him going. Come on, y'all, you better get a part. Listen, get a hold of this blessing. There's more than one way, okay? This is great. Lucas, man, you have really shared transparently and powerfully today, man, and I appreciate you.
thank you for having me. It was amazing to have this conversation. Thank you so much.
Good. Well, you already know, y'all. Henry Flowers here, Powerful Living Outreach Ministries, for my man Lucas. I ain't going nowhere. We coming back.